how about some warm and cozy slipper socks with bubbles? These have a low profile heel and a mildly textured fabric, and to top it off, a short rib stitch cuff. Hey, it's Denise from LoomAhead.com. Let's begin with the setup. Any 24 peg small loom will work. See, these two look different, but they're exactly the same. I've also added stitch marks to mine for the beginning, for empty ones, and 4 after that. This is for the heel of the sock. It's easier for me if I add stitch markers. Alright, I'm also going to be using 2 strands of yarn as one. You can just use some chunky yarn and that will work. And now let's make a slip knot. You can just use a regular knot. I'm doing a slip knot because regular knots on this loom are a little complicated. Alright, secure the yarn, and then we're going to do a drawstring cast on. Now, either direction is going to be fine, right or left. I usually go right, but this time I'm going to go left. And we're going to go in and out. You're going to zigzag your working yarn through every other peg until you're back at the beginning of the loom. So just keep going, and when you get to that peg number 1, which in my case is black, for now I'm going to take my yarn behind that black peg. I'm going to lay it loosely over a few of my pegs, bringing down the existing loops, and now with my hook I'm going to knit off every peg that has 2 loops. So if you pay it close attention, you'll see that it's every other peg. So lay it over a few of them and then knit off only the pegs with 2 loops, one on the bottom and one on the top. Once you knit off peg 24 right here, you're done with your cast on, and we're ready for row 1, where we're going to Uwrap Knit the Row. Bring the working yarn back in front of peg 1, and you'll notice that peg 1 now only has 1 loop, which looks different from peg 2. So we're going to skip that peg 1 this time only, go to peg 2, we half wrap the peg, and now we're going to knit off. Looks like this. So get your yarn again, and we're going to Uwrap knit the next peg. So you half wrap that peg, and then you take the loop from the bottom over the top and knit off. And that is your Uwrap version of the knit stitch. And that's the version of the knit stitch that we're using for this row 1. Keep going. You need to do all of your pegs, go around the whole loom until you're back at peg 24. Once you knit off peg 24, you're ready for row 2, and this time we're going to eWrap knit the row. So starting with peg 1, you're going to wrap all 24 pegs one time, so your wrap goes over the existing loop. Then we're going to secure the yarn by knitting off the last peg that we wrapped. Now all you have to do is knit off all the rest of the pegs. Now all you have to do is repeat rows 1 and 2. So row 3, like row 1, is a row of the Uwrap knit stitch. All you're going to do is half wrap and knit off. Do all 24 pegs And when you're done with that row, you're on to row 4, which is a repeat of row 2, where you do 24 pegs of the eWrap version of the knit stitch. At this point, it's safe for you to remove the slip knot or regular knot that you added to your anchor peg. Finish knitting the foot portion of the sock, then it's time for the heel. You can do this. We're going to knit flat using 12 pegs. First, we're going to start with decreases on each end and then increase. Let's start with the first one. First thing we're going to do is Uwrap knit 11 pegs. Alright, remember that we're knitting flat, and whenever we're knitting to the right, we're going to be doing the Uwrap version of the knit stitch. When you get to the end of the row, which is peg number 12, which I've marked with a black stitch marker, you're not going to knit that one. You're going to wrap and turn. So you've wrapped that. Now you're on the next peg, and we're going to eWrap knit 10 pegs. That's peg number 10, so you're going to go back and knit off those 10 pegs. You have now decreased by 1 on the left, and we're going to do the same thing on the right. So on peg 1, instead of knitting, what you're going to do is you're going to wrap and turn on peg 1, and now we're going to Uwrap knit 9 pegs. Now you've decreased by 2 pegs, 1 on each end, and we're going to continue to do that. Next, I'm going to do the blue pegs. So I'm going to continue to knit, Uwrap knit 9 pegs. I'm not touching that 12. I'm going to wrap and turn on peg 11, and now I'm going to eWrap 8 pegs right here, and I'm going to, of course, knit off my eWraps, and I'm going to make sure not to mess with the wrap and turns. So now I'm over here on peg 2. I'm going to wrap and turn. I'm not going to knit that one, and at this point I'm knitting using the Uwrap, and I have 2 on each end. See? There and there. I've decreased by 4 already. Right? Now I'm going to Uwrap knit 7 pegs, and I'm heading towards the left. That's why I'm using the Uwrap version of the knit stitch. So continue all the way back until you've done 7 pegs, which is right here. And then I'm going to turn and wrap on peg 10 and eWrap back 6 pegs. So I knit off those 6 pegs, and now I have 3 on this side, and now I have 3 on the other side that I've wrapped and turned. Now I'm going to Uwrap knit 5 pegs. So you see that I am decreasing by 1 peg. When I wrap and turn, that's a decrease, right? So I do that each time I end a row. I wrap and turn. And here, as you can see, I've done the 4 on one side. I'm going to finish now on this side. But things are going to change now. I wrap and turn on 4, but it is now time to start doing the increases. So I'm going to do the reverse. I wrap and turn, and now instead of doing where I do less pegs, now I'm going to do more. So this time I'm going to take that extra peg right there, and I'm going to knit off, because now I'm doing increases, and I'm going to wrap and turn. And you see that that's the peg with the white sticker, right, with the white stitch marker. So I had 4 that were wrapped and turned. Now I only have 3 where I wrapped and turned, and I'm going to do the same thing on this end. So I'm going to knit off, and that had 2 loops, and that's alright. I'm going to knit back all of these, And now I'm ready to add an extra one where I'm going to wrap and turn. See, there's 3 that have wraps and turn, right? Now I'm going to eWrap. I'm going to Uwrap on the way back, because I'm doing the same thing I did when I was decreasing, except now I am increasing, which, like I said, is the backwards, right? It's the reverse. I'm going now to get this one, and this one has 3 wraps, because every time I do one, when I increase, I wrap and turn, and that gives me an extra one. See, I'm going to wrap and turn there. But before I do that, do you see how baggy these stitches are here when I do those 3? Tighten your yarn, the working yarn, tighten it nicely to try to tighten those. And there's something else that you can do. I didn't do it on this end because the bulkiness wasn't that drastic, but I'm going to show you what I do on the other end. So here, right, I wrap to turn, and I have 3 of them from my last wrap and turn, and it looks bulky. And the way I solve that, because this one's a little extra bulky, is that I'm going to pick those stitches up, and I'm going to put them on the peg ahead of it so that I can knit them off. And it does get a little like bulky, and you can knit them off a little bit at a time. You don't have to do all of them, because at this point there's a lot of them. You can do a little bit at a time, you know, a few of them, knit them off, or one. Now I hope this hasn't gotten a little complicated and made it more difficult, but if you want your heel to look nice, you're gonna need to do this. So now I'm going in the opposite direction, and like I said, I've done this one, and I'm going to go ahead and knit off those extra stitches so that I don't have a lot of them when I'm coming back. And now I'm heading to the right, to the left. So I'm going to U-wrap those pegs, and the wrap and turn tells me where I left off. I left off where there are 3 loops on the peg, and so that I know that I'm going to knit off those 3 loops and then add an extra one to the one next to it. It's a marker. It lets you know where you left off. This is where I left off. So I'm going to knit off all of these extra loops, and it tells me that the next one is where I do the wrap and turn, but right now I have all these bulky loops. So first I'm going to pick them up and put them on the peg that is in front. It's in the direction that I'm heading. That's why I put them there. I'm going to knit in that direction. Now you can put 2 of them, 3 of them, as many as you feel you want to put back. You want to remount, then wrap and turn. And again, we're increasing, so we have more pegs to knit off every time we increase. See, I have one more peg to knit than I did on my way there. So I'm going to knit these off, and heels can be a little confusing, so if you need to go back and look at this again, do that. So I'm here where again I'm going to knit off all of those loops and wrap and turn, and it's bulky, so I'm going to pick them up and I'm going to put them on the peg that's in front of the last one that I knit. That just makes it easier for me. And then I'm going to wrap and turn. So I knit off, and I'm going to knit these. And if this is confusing for you, then you can just do it in the conventional way, in that you can just, knit off the 2 that are on there, wrap and turn the one before it. Or you can rewind and watch this heel portion as many times as you feel necessary. Most people have a hard time with knitting heels. So if this got a little confusing for you, don't feel bad. That's the normal thing, you can go back and watch them as many times as you need to. Again, I'm going to knit off these 3 loops right here, and even though this is the last peg, I'm going to pick up those stitches and put it in front, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to wrap and turn, and that's just to make things a little cleaner for me. Alright, so I've remounted these bulky ones, and I'm going to knit off, and it can get a little messy, you know. You can only fix it so much. Again, heels are kind of odd to do. I'm going to wrap and turn an extra peg, and I'm going to come back, and that just helps me to not have holes in my sock. You'll see that very often, that heels, you end up with holes in them. Alright, so again, I'm going to knit off all of these extra loops here, and I do them one at a time. It's just easier for me. And I'm going to go ahead and mount those extra ones to the peg that's in front of it in the direction that I'm going. And just like I did on the other end, on this end, I will wrap and turn an extra peg. But since this is my eWrap section, you see that I'm going to knit off all of these pegs because I have a lot of extra pegs this time. So I'm going to knit all of them off, including that extra peg. That side is done. Alright. And if you still see that you can find a little hole, just pick up that stitch. Don't feel shy about it. You can do that. You can pick up any stitches where you see that there's a little hole and just remount it onto the one in front of it. That will hide any little hole that you can see, and just knit off on that one. And you could do it before or after. At any point you can remount. Like see here, I see that extra space there and I'm not very happy with it and I want to clear it up, so I just pick it up and I put it on the peg before it right there, and that's going to clear up any hole that I see. Now you could do this, like I said, at any point, right? Like on this one, before you wrap and turn, you could just go ahead and remount that stitch that's in the middle. You see that it's between 2 pegs. You could just take it, pick it up, put it on the peg before it in the direction that you're headed, and then wrap and turn. Because I wrap and turn 1 extra peg when I finish my 12 pegs. I wrap and turn 1 extra one, and I'll pick up a stitch if I see like a little hole in between to help me with that issue. Now I'm just going to knit regular. We're going to continue, but first, this public announcement. Did you know that socks are the most needed but least donated article of clothing in homeless shelters? They are. Now let's start the cuff. We're going to restart the row count because it's going to make it easier. So rows 1 through 3 we're going to Uwrap, and rows 4 through 6 we're going to do a purl stitch. Now you guys already know how to do the Uwrap. The only difference in this section right here is that you're doing 3 rows consecutively of only the Uwrap, right? We were doing 1 row of Uwrap, 1 row of eWrap, but not this time, only the Uwrap. Time to introduce the purl stitch. Now you're going to take the working yarn and put it under the existing stitch with your hook. Scoop up that working yarn and create a loop. Take off the existing loop, put on the new loop, and pull your working yarn. Let's see that again. You're putting your yarn under the existing loop, scoop it up, and you're making a new loop. You're going to take the old one off, you're going to put the new one on, and you're going to pull your yarn. Alright? Almost sounds like a little song. Put your yarn under the existing loop, scoop up, make a new loop, take the old loop off, boom, put the new loop on, boom. There you go. Just keep doing that for 3 rows. Repeat rows 1 through 6 2 more times for a total of 18 rows. After that, you'll knit 3 rows of the Uwrap knit stitch. When you finish those 3 rows, you're then going to knit 3 rows of the rib stitch, which is a knit 1, purl 1. So let's start with the knit 1. We're using the Uwrap only, so we Uwrap knit 1, and then the next one we're going to purl. You guys are expert on purls by now, so I don't have to explain that one. And we're going to Uwrap knit and then purl, and that's all you're going to do around the entire loom. You're going to Uwrap knit 1 peg right here, and then you're going to purl 1 peg right here. Okay, knit 1, purl 1, 3 rows. Yay, time for bind off, and we're going to use the super stretchy bind off, which I hacked. To start, you're going to take your 2 strands of yarn and wrap them around the loom at least 2 times. With your scissors, cut the working yarn, and now we're going to skip that first peg and go to peg 2. Get your hook, and from the top, scoop the yarn up and feed it through. Then you're going to pull your yarn tightly and then come back to the peg you skipped, and from the bottom, scoop down. Let's repeat that same thing. You're going to skip your peg right here and go to the next one, and from the top, scoop the working yarn up and through, tighten, and then go back to the peg you skipped, and from the bottom, scoop the yarn down. And you're going to see that we're following a pattern. We're going to skip that peg, go to the next one, and from the top, scoop up, and this peg that you skipped, you're going to go back to it, and from the bottom, grab the working yarn and scoop down and feed the yarn through. And just repeat this process. Here we're going to remove that last loop off the peg, and that's basically the hack. And now you're going to continue with the process. You skip a peg, go to the next one from the bottom up. Alright, take off that loop and tighten your yarn. You have to keep the yarn tight because that's what's going to keep your loops from looking loose. And if you don't remove that previous loop, then when you tighten, it's only going to tighten so much. I'll put a link in the description for a complete video of just this process of just the bind off. Alright, and when you get back to the front, you're going to go through that first loop 2 times again, and you're going to remove that previous loop and then scoop from the top up, and then you can remove those last 2 loops, and you're basically done with the bind off. Alright, don't forget to stretch your stitches. This is very important. If you don't, your socks will not look right. And of course, we need to weave in this end, so put it on a yarn and then weave it in. I go towards the bottom and then back up to the top, and then I'll just go one more time, and sometimes my yarn comes out of my needle. And when you feel comfortable that you've weaved in enough of the yarn, right, weave it up one more time and cut it. And there you have it. You're done with that part. And again, you're stretching your stitches. And let's go ahead and pull on the drawstring in order to close the toe section. And don't close it. You're just going to tighten up and then turn the sock inside out. You shouldn't have closed that opening completely. You're just going to close it enough to kind of round out that circle a little more. Then get a needle. Metal is going to work much better for you in this situation, but if you don't have a metal one, don't worry. It's just when you're working, especially with 2 strands of yarn, they just tend to work better. Alright, so I'm going to focus on getting those little tips sewn first because I want it to be round. I don't want it to have like a little tip on the end. And then I'm going to secure this edge right here, and now I'm going to start to close the toe with like a whip stitch, right? So I go over it and then I go around and come back and sew again. And you see, Keep doing the same thing. You're going to go all the way to the end, and when you're on the other end, we're going to get that little tip again, because you want it to be perfectly round. And I'm going to want to reinforce it. So I'm going to come back through those stitches that I've already done, and I'm going to feed what I have left of this working yarn through those top stitches. And I keep losing my, I should have used a bigger needle. This one's a bit short, but you know, you just need to get it to the other side. So you could use the fabric itself to kind of push the needle through. And once you're done with that, you can just create a little knot and then cut off your excess yarn. You're done basically with your sock, and now it's time to create the bubbles. So get your yarn, and you're going to measure out 2 feet of yarn. And right now it's a 4-ply. I'm going to unravel this yarn to create 2-ply thread. You can leave yours as a 4-ply. I just find that it works better when the yarn is thinner. And then I'm going to go ahead and get my yarn needle and thread my 2-ply thread. And then I'm going to start on my sock. Now this has 3 rows. I'm only going to show you on one of them. You can do either side. And so I'm going to start from either the back or the front, and I'm going to feed my yarn thread through one of the little stitches, right? Top and bottom, and then I'm going to go ahead and make a really tight knot right here to start with, just to secure my yarn, because you do want it in place. And then one thing you can do is just go from there, right from the inside, go 2 rows down over, and then go ahead and do the same thing. You start off from the top, stay on the same line, and then feed your needle 2 down, right? And tighten up your yarn really good. Making sure that the yarn is tight is key to these bubbles. And if you want to do just 1 strand at a time, you could do it like this. Just skip over to 2 rows and then come back down and go over. Or you could do it like this, which is what I prefer. I'm going to sew these 2 times and then really tight. I feel that it gives more definition when I do this. And then from the bottom, I'm going to go over 2 rows and do the same thing. Come from the top down and tighten. Come from the bottom back up and tighten, and then I'm going to go from the bottom over 2 rows. And I find that 2 rows works best. And like I said, I'm only going to do this middle row. If you want to do the other 2, I do stagger them so that they're not like stacked one right over the other, and there is some space. So this is it. This is how you do the bubbles. You're basically just feeding your yarn through. There's a 2 row space between one bubble and the other, and then you just kind of like wrap the yarn around the purl stitch rows, and that kind of puffs them up. And if you can get your yarn really nice and tight, then you get nice texture and your bubbles show up really well. You see? And now you could do 2 rows or 3 rows. Here's 3 rows like I showed you in the beginning, and here's just 1 in the middle. So you decide what works best for you. Alright guys, I hope this was helpful and you like your bubbles with socks. I'm sorry, socks with bubbles. Alright, I'll see you next time. Thanks to Promise Learning and Lori Kopaszewski for covering the cost of closed captioning. And until next time.